Mark Carney had another one of those Trump-like signing ceremonies. You know, Trump gets these executive orders and he signs them in thick felt marker and he talks about them for a moment. It's become his signature move for executive orders. You know, we don't have that kind of thing in Canada. We do have executive orders, but they're not signed by the Prime Minister. They're signed by the Governor General. And it's just not what we do in our system to have the Prime Minister as if he's the head of state. He's not. He's the head of government. There's a bit of a distinction there. It's the King's delegate, the Governor General. So my point is, when you see, and he's done this several times now, including when he, quote, repealed the carbon tax. Of course, he didn't repeal it at all. He just reduced the rate temporarily to zero. He also had one of these ceremonies, very Trump-like, but sort of fake in that way. And there's something else that I think is sort of fake about what's going on. Parliament hasn't sat in months. And it doesn't seem to be in any hurry to sit again. And here's the craziest part. Canada, as we careen through economic crises, immigration crises, affordability crises, tax crises, we have not had a budget. The government of Canada has not had a budget since April of 2024, more than a year ago. But hey, if Mark Carney has some more of these theatrical signing ceremonies, I guess that's all we need. Joining us now to talk about this and other related matters is our favorite tax fighter, our friend Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. You know, the Liberals have always been masters of optics and visuals, but at the end of the day, sometimes you actually have to govern. You have to have Parliament called, you have to debate, you have to vote. And the basic document of any government, in some ways the most important one, is the budget, because from there all things flow, whether it's taxes or spending. Has Canada ever gone this long without a budget before, Franco?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, right? Because the Trudeau government didn't put in a budget in 2020. So this isn't the first time that we've seen the Liberal government not bring in a budget, but this is really a big deal, right? Okay, for a number of reasons. Number one, it's democracy 101 that a government tables a budget, right? They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars of our money. A budget is probably the biggest time of the year where Canadians, where taxpayers can actually look into the state of our finances, but then also hold the government accountable on its spending plans. Hey, Ezra, not to mention members of Parliament who are supposed to be our elected representatives, who are supposed to be voting on spending and tax bills. Well, how in the world are they going to make an informed decision if the government won't even release what the state of our finances are?
You know, I thought you were going to go in a slightly different direction when you mentioned the MPs, because here's one thing I know. Every April Fool's Day, the MPs automatically get a raise in pay. And I have to tell you, Franco, if they didn't get that raise in pay until they did their work and got a budget, we would have had that budget yesterday. And so they certainly took care of themselves first. Do we know when Parliament is set to resume? I see here that it'll be some weeks yet still, but the new finance minister, François-Philippe Champagne, says that we won't have a budget. We'll have a fall economic update, but we're still in the spring, Franco.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden fall turns into what, December?
Yeah, that's what it was a couple years ago.
Look, okay, first of all, fall economic statement isn't a budget. Right? It's supposed to be a budget update. Well, what are you updating on if you don't have a budget? But let's also go back to two things. Number one, I'm glad you brought up the pay raises, okay? So what is it, middle of May now? And these members of Parliament haven't been in the House of Commons all year. They just took another pay raise April 1. For what? For being at home for about half a year? Come on. Not to mention, folks, the finance minister's one job is to table a budget.
That's his job.
I bet you that's it. Right, Ezra, I bet you next year we're having this conversation, and guess who's going to get another pay raise? Probably the finance minister. But hey, Ezra, can I dive into the real heart of the issue here? Okay, Carney ran on this notion of being the credible numbers guy, right? The math guy, the financial wizard. Well, how can you be credible as a financial wizard if you can't even be bothered to put together a budget?
Yeah. You know, I was reading your essay this morning on your website, which is a great website. The essay, you called it, I'd call it a press release, I guess. Taxpayers deserve a federal budget. And I sort of forgot these details. Let me just quote a line from your piece today. You said, Carney plans to add an extra $225 billion to the debt over the next 4 years, according to his election platform. For comparison, the Trudeau government planned on increasing the debt by $131 billion over those years, according to the most recent fall economic statement. So Mark Carney is spending 50% more in terms of the debt. He's going into debt 50% deeper.
100%.
And like you say, this is the guy who was supposed to bring, it was Trudeau who said the childish thing, budgets balance themselves, who said the naive thing, I don't think about monetary policy, who said the foolish thing, we'll build the economy from the heart out. But it's Carney who's blowing up the debt. Carney's making Justin Trudeau. It's making me pine for the days of Justin Trudeau.
Oh, I bet you didn't think you were going to say that today. But look, turns out we learned that budgets don't balance themselves. And I guess budgets don't write themselves either. Look, it took Trudeau 10 years to double the debt, right? So in all of the 100+ years that Canada's been around, you had prime ministers, all of them rack up $600 billion of debt. Trudeau comes in and he doubles it. And if that wasn't bad enough, well, now we have Carney, who wants to add about $100 billion more of debt than what even Trudeau was planning to do, okay? The banker was supposed to be better with the numbers than the drama teacher, but it's not looking that way anymore.